Hi guys, I'm Emily.
And I'm Rachel.
And today's video that we're going to be talking about is basic nutrition and how to use that information in this video to use it for your client in the personal training setting.
Yeah, so our main takeaway with this video is just that you can take these concepts that we teach you about and hopefully use them to answer questions that you might get from your client in P392.
All right, let's get started.
Let's go.
What we're going to be talking about today is nutrition. The basic definition for nutrition is just the science of eating a healthy, balanced diet. So for nutrition, there are 6 major nutrients that are going to be discussed during this video. First is going to be carbohydrates, fats, proteins, vitamins, minerals, and water. These can be separated for macronutrients and micronutrients, which will be discussed later on in this video.
So the 6 major nutrients that we just talked about can be divided into 2 different subcategories. So macronutrients and micronutrients. So the macronutrients are called macro just because they are needed in larger amounts in the body, hence the word macro meaning large. The macronutrients are carbohydrates, which are, they provide us with 4 kcal per gram as energy. So a kcal is used interchangeably with calories, so 4 calories per gram. Fats provide the most energy with 9 kcal per gram, and then proteins provide 4 kcal per gram. And those are the 3 macronutrients. Micronutrients are called micro just because the word micro means small, and we don't need as much of the micronutrients as we do the macronutrients, and they don't provide us with any energy like these 3 macronutrients. So the micronutrients are vitamins and minerals. For example, vitamins could be any A, D, E, and K.
I just want to stop myself right here for a second. The way that I talked about the vitamins was slightly confusing. So the vitamins are A, D, E, K, and then there's the B complex and then vitamin C. I will go into more detail about these in just a moment and divide them into fat-soluble and water-soluble. I just didn't want to confuse you guys by only listing the fat-soluble vitamins.
And then minerals, we're talking about iron, potassium, sodium.
So the vitamins can also be divided into subcategories of fat-soluble versus water-soluble, and I just want to give a brief overview of each. So the fat-soluble vitamins include A, D, E, and K, and fat-soluble, it means exactly what it sounds like, so they are readily dissolved in fat, and they are stored in the liver and fatty tissue. You can find these abundant in high-fat foods, and because they are fat-soluble and they are stored in the body, they can accumulate to toxic levels, so it is important to be very careful with supplementation of the A, D, E, and K vitamins because they are fat-soluble. Next, I just want to hit on the water-soluble vitamins, which include the B complex, so all the B vitamins, and then vitamin C. So similar to the definition of fat-soluble, water-soluble means that they will dissolve in water. Soluble means dissolvable. So the B complex and the C vitamins will dissolve in water, and they are quickly absorbed in the body because of this. And this also means, though, that they are not stored like the fat-soluble vitamins. So we do need to replenish these vitamins regularly with our diet. And because they are water-soluble, they are quickly excreted in urine. So it's pretty rare to have a toxicity from a B or C vitamin, but they can still make you not feel super great if you do take too much. For example, if you take too much vitamin C or if you eat too much vitamin C, you might get diarrhea, but that's pretty much the worst of it. They're not going to really cause a scary toxicity like the fat-soluble vitamins can. That is all I have about the vitamins. Let's continue on to talk about water and alcohol.
A question that may be brought up while training your client throughout the semester is how much water that I should be taking per day. So from this, 20% of water actually comes from food that you're being eating throughout the day. So a number that has been brought up is 8 cups of water. So for the 8 cups of water, that's a weird ballpark number that isn't really actually what every person needs to drink per day. So yes, 8 cups, but more likely most people actually need more than that. So why is the reason for that? So for that, it actually depends on the person. So the person's activity level, or even the body size, their gender, if the person is actually in a pregnancy or they're breastfeeding, or other different reasons why they need more water. So with this, the consideration to take is you want to take about half your body weight in ounces. So for example, I weigh 130 pounds. So therefore, I should drink about 65 ounces of H2O a day. So another thing to take in consideration is alcohol intake. So for alcohol intake, it is 7 kcal per gram. So with this is considered as empty calories. So this means that it's a lot of calories, but does not include the nutrients that is required for someone to actually continue on to a healthier living style. So an example of that is just any food with high sugars, or anything from alcohol, or anything from that point of view. That is lots of calories but no nutrients.
Before I get into the calories in, calories out method and like what affects each calories in and calories out, I want to give a little simplification. So if calories in is greater than calories out, you are gaining weight. And if calories in is less than calories out, you are losing weight. And if calories in equals calories out, you are maintaining your body weight. So this could be a good way to explain this method to your client initially. And then if they had more questions about it, it's good to know the stuff that I'm about to talk about in the next clip.
Okay, so whenever you guys are training your client, they may or may not ask you about weight loss. And whenever it comes to nutrition, the calories in, calories out, or CICO method could be something useful that you guys could inform them about. So when it comes to the calories in, calories out method, there are 4 factors that affect calories in or your calorie intake. The first is pretty obvious. It's just eating food. So like the amount of food that you are eating on a daily basis. And then the next one would actually be like absorption of food. So the absorption of food can actually be inhibited by certain diseases. Like for example, somebody who has irritable bowel syndrome, they might only absorb like 80% of the nutrients from the food they consume, versus like a normal person who's healthy would ideally be consuming close to 100% of the nutrients from the food that they eat. Next would be appetite. So literally like your drive or the want to eat food or not eat food. And that is affected by 2 different hormones, ghrelin and leptin. So ghrelin actually increases hunger, and then leptin decreases hunger.
I just wanted to add here real quick that leptin is produced in fat cells. So the more fat a person has, the more leptin is produced. But it is actually shown that obese people can develop leptin resistance, so they just don't respond to that leptin, decreasing appetite. But it is thought that exercise can improve leptin resistance.
And then lastly, psychological factors can affect calories in. So this would be, for example, somebody who has like anorexia nervosa would obviously be taking in a significantly smaller amount of calories. Okay, so there's 4 factors that affect calories out. So the first one being pretty obvious, physical activity, just like how many calories you're expending with the movement that you're doing whenever you're physically active or exercising. Next, there is BMR and RMR. So BMR stands for basal metabolic rate, and to put it simply, your basal metabolic rate is like the bare minimum calories or metabolism that you need to survive. And then resting metabolic rate is used more commonly. It's pretty much just like your metabolism at rest. One thing I do want to note about BMR and RMR, especially for weight loss, is that you never ever want to like have a goal to maintain like beneath your BMR. Like you would not want to be taking in so little calories that it's actually below your BMR, because that's whenever people can get sick or even die.
Keisha, Miss Keisha. Oh my fucking god, she fucking dead.
Okay, so that might have been a little bit dramatic, but ultimately what I was trying to get at is that you are really stressing your body if you are trying to maintain or eat below your BMR. It's not really sustainable just because you are technically starving yourself. So it's a form of starvation, and that will increase stress hormones like cortisol in the body. And that for a prolonged amount of time is not good for the body, not good for your health. So will you die from eating below your BMR? Probably not, but if you do it for a really long time, I could definitely see it causing some very critical issues in the body.
NEAT can also affect calories out. It stands for non-exercise activity thermogenesis. And an example of non-exercise activity thermogenesis would simply be what I'm doing right now with my hands. Like fidgeting, stuff like that, or like things that aren't exercise, as the name states, non-exercise. Something cool about NEAT is that you'll actually notice if somebody is like maintaining close to their BMR, so like their intake, their caloric intake.
Caloric intake, not caloric intake. My bad.
Is significantly less than like what they need, they will actually stop doing this non-exercise activity thermogenesis in terms of fidgeting. So like they won't shake their foot at their desk, or they won't like continually tap their pencil on their desk just to save energy. And then the last thing that affects calories out would be the thermic effect of food, or TEF. And this just kind of hits on the fact that like protein has a really high thermic effect. So it actually takes a lot of calories to break down protein and use it as energy in the body. So that can affect your calories out.
Here's a neat little graphic. Did you get that? I said neat. Anyways, it just shows you some different examples of NEAT, and it says that NEAT can make up 63% of your day. Isn't that crazy? I didn't even know that. So I thought that was pretty cool. So I just wanted to share this graphic with you guys. This graphic kind of explains what the percentages are for the thermic effect of food. So I wanted to give like a brief example just to help this make more sense. So we talked about protein having the highest thermic effect of food. So for example, if you ate like or drank 100 calories of protein, this would mean that 30% of those calories are going to be used to break down that protein. So 30 calories will be used to break down that protein. And then you're actually using and getting the 70 calories of protein. And
I think it's good. Okay. Oh, do you want me to go now?
Yeah.
That makes sense. That, take in consideration that 20% from food is actually,
It's okay.
it's like,
H2O.
we put it here.
H2O.